All right, guys, welcome to the show. We got a lot to get to today, so I'm going to give you more on J.D. Vance, tell you more about his policy positions and how uncharismatic he is. Then we'll get to the Secret Service caught saying even more preposterous things about the Trump shooting and where they were and what they were doing. Biden also did a couple new interviews, and he's rambling his way to new levels of cooked. Then later on, a scandal now with RFK and Trump. We have MAGA turning on Trump over one of the speakers at the RNC. And Alex Jones, man. Alex Jones said something really weird on his show about 6 months ago that I'm going to show for you. I mean, look, it's about the idea of the assassination of Trump, and just wait until you see it, is all I'm going to say. And also, we're finally going to discuss Judge Aileen Cannon, who completely threw out Trump's document case now. Said, we're done here. This is over with. We're not going to go any further on this one. Now, it's going to be appealed, so there's still a chance for that case, but she is certainly doing what Trump wants her to do, which is rigging it in his favor, and I use that word on purpose. Okay, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. Everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. That helps out big time. It costs you absolutely nothing. All right, so let's do it. I wanted to walk you guys through yet again more about J.D. Vance. So J.D. Vance used to be massively anti-Trump. He would go on all the liberal media outlets and he would say things like Trump could be America's Hitler and he's a disgrace, and actually I'm going to vote third party because I could never see myself voting for Trump in 1,000 years. He said, iterations of all of these things. Since then, he's made a hard right turn. He's obviously riding Trump's meat. So let's go through some of his policy positions. Here's one thing that he said. By the way, the audio on this is horrible. You're about to experience it. But listen to what he said. This is on the topic of divorce.
And this is one of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled on the American populace, which is this idea that these marriages were fundamentally, they were maybe even violent, but certainly they were unhappy. And so getting rid of them and making it easier for people to shift spouses like they change their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long term. And maybe it worked out for the moms and dads, though I'm skeptical, but it really didn't work out for the kids of those marriages.
So, look, one of his positions is we should get rid of no-fault divorce. Another way of saying that is you should kind of be forced to stay with your spouse. If you make the decision to get married, there should be effectively no way out of that. And he even brings up a situation where it's abusive. Sort of suck it up and deal with it. Because something family values, something think about the kids. Yeah, but the kids witnessing an abusive marriage of their parents, they're definitely worse off in that scenario. Doesn't care. So guys, call it what it is. This is extreme social conservatism. And it's relatively recent that the right decided we're going to go all in on saying we should get rid of no-fault divorce. So in other words, we're backsliding on certain social issues, and he's helping to lead the way on that front. All right, so J.D. Vance had this on his website, and he has since deleted it since being picked VP. It says, "End abortion. I am 100% pro-life and believe that abortion has turned our society into a place where we see children as an inconvenience to be thrown away rather than a blessing to be nurtured. Eliminating abortion is first and foremost about protecting the unborn, but it's also about making our society more pro-child and pro-family." More on the, I'm pro-child and pro-family in a second. Wait until you see some of his economic ideas. The historic Dobbs decision puts this new era of society into motion, one that prioritizes family and the sanctity of all life. The pro-life fight continues by ensuring that every young mother has the resources to bring new life into the world, expanding adoption and promoting pregnancy centers so that every child grows up in a loving home as they deserve. We'll expand child tax credits and ensure that young parents don't come home from the hospital with budget-busting surprise bills. Okay, so again, let's be clear. This says end abortion, and I don't see any language that hedges. Hey, if the life of the mother is in danger, of course. Hey, if the health of the mother is in danger, of course. Hey, if there's a fatal defect in the fetus and they're not going to make it anyway, of course. There's none of that. By the way, he's one of the Republicans that wants to ban IVF, in vitro fertilization. So this is as extreme as it gets. This is like Mike Pence. This is religious theocracy type stuff. That from the moment of conception, we're going to say there's a third person in the room. We don't care if it's a pile of goo, if it's gametes, if it's a zygote. We don't care about any of that. It's a person, full rights. So this is as extreme as it gets. Now remember, Trump should have been strategic in picking a VP, somebody who could ameliorate some of the fears about Trump. And this was not that. This pick means Trump is feeling sort of optimistic about his chances in the election, so he's willing to roll the dice and take a risk on a VP who's too extreme. Here's J.D. Vance complaining about how Trump demonizes migrants. So this is back before he decided to do a new grift and hopped on Trump's nuts. Let's see what he says.
My fear is, I think Donald Trump is not the right candidate for this group of voters. I think that this selection is really having a negative effect, especially on the white working class, right? Because I think a lot of these grievances are legitimate, but what it's doing is it's giving people an excuse to point the finger at someone else. It's point the finger at Mexican immigrants or Chinese trade or the Democratic elites or whatever else. And sometimes these villains are legitimate. I think it's totally fair to say that the policy elites of the Democratic Party haven't been totally concerned about the white working class. But at the same time, fundamentally what's going on and what Donald Trump has done is change the focus of the white working class from a sort of engaged and constructive politics to a politics of pointing the finger.
So in other words, look, he's scapegoating, and that's the problem. It's really not the fault of immigrants that, we have the horrible trade policies that we have and we've outsourced manufacturing jobs. You can scapegoat, you can blame whoever you want, but that's not a good idea. You shouldn't do that. So this is, again, pre him in his new grift hopping on Trump's nutsack. This is the sort of stuff he used to say. Now, that part was right. By the way, one part in there was wrong, where he brings up like, oh, he's demonizing trade with China. Well, I understand demonizing the current trade deals we have in place because they decimated the working class. So you should demonize them. They are demons. Those trade deals are written behind closed doors with all the major corporations and executives, and they rig it in their direction and screw over workers. They don't care about workers at all. Now, the problem with Trump is not that he correctly uses rhetoric to say these trade deals screwed you over. The problem with Trump is that he doesn't follow through to seriously change those policies. His new NAFTA is way too similar to the old NAFTA, for example. Under Trump, we outsourced 200,000 manufacturing jobs. Under Biden, they brought back 800,000 manufacturing jobs. So the problem was not his rhetoric on trade. The problem was he didn't follow through on the rhetoric and actually change our trade policy in any serious, substantive way. He's right on the part where, yeah, he scapegoats immigrants and stuff, and that's not cool. He's right about that. But now, by the way, he would never say this. Now he agrees with Trump's rhetoric on that stuff. And he's wrong about why are you demonizing trade with China? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because permanent normal trade relations with China had us lose millions of jobs. Maybe that's why. Decent paying jobs. So here we go. This is him basically talking about one of the planks of Project 2025 and saying, I'm all in on that one. And by the way, as you're about to see, this is super extreme.
I tend to think that we should seize the institutions of the left and turn them against the left, right? We need like a de-Bathification program, but like a de-Wokeification program in the United States, right?
He compared de-Bathification, which, by the way, was a disaster. It was a disaster in Iraq. They fired all the civil servants, and then all hell broke loose and helped lead to a civil war. So that was a terrible idea. But he's saying we should do that, except call it de-Wokeification. Oh, my God. Wait, he's going to explain what that means in more detail here.
So, let me give you a couple examples. So one of the things I've always been very sympathetic to is this idea that we don't have a real constitutional republic anymore. What we have is an administrative state, right? The administrative state controls everything, right? So to the point that when Donald Trump wins, he can't even sometimes get his people in core positions of authority in the administrative state. It's like, well, do we have a constitutional republic? The founding fathers actually created a very powerful chief executive, a very powerful president. But if he can't even fire the people in his own administration, is this really a successful republic? So a lot of conservatives have said we should deconstruct the administrative state. We should basically eliminate the administrative state. And I'm sympathetic to that project. But another option is that we should just seize the administrative state for our own purposes. We should fire all of the people. I mean, I think Trump is going to run again in 2024. I think he'll probably win again in 2024. And he'll win by a margin such that he will be the president of the United States in January of 2025. I think that what Trump should do, if I was giving him one piece of advice, fire every single mid-level bureaucrat.
By the way, what he hinted at there was he can win by a big enough margin where he'll be the president. What he's hinting at is he won the last time, but it was close enough where they could rig it. That's what he's getting at. So in other words, yet again, stroking Trump's ego, stroking Trump's something else as well, and basically feeding into the big lie. That's what he was doing there. Here we go.
I was giving him one piece of advice. Fire every single mid-level bureaucrat, every civil servant in the administrative state, replace them with our people. And when the courts, because you will get taken to court, and then when the courts stop you, stand before the country like Andrew Jackson did and say the Chief Justice has made his ruling, now let him enforce it. Because this is, I think, a constitutional level crisis.
By the way, that quote is badass. And imagine if Biden did that. Imagine if Biden did that and said, yeah, the Supreme Court decided this. Let's see them enforce it with their army. That would be badass, right? If you do it for the right ideas. He's saying do for the wrong ideas. What he's saying is do that, fire every single, basically, liberal in the administrative state, every single career bureaucrat, fire them. So to decode what he's saying is, yeah, you know the EPA and all that environmental protection that they do? Take it over, make it so that they don't do any environmental protection, because we care more about industry than we care about taking care of the people via regulation, right? The Department of Education, same thing. Get rid of anybody there who ever believed in or taught a single liberal value, liberal idea, make it top to bottom, MAGA loyalists, hardcore right-wingers. And you go agency for agency, and this is what they want. They want to destroy the regulatory and administrative state. They want to make it so that the government can't do the basic functions of government. He wants to get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. What's that? Well, that's probably the most successful government agency in the sense that they've returned billions of dollars to Americans who were defrauded by big business and financial institutions. I know because I was one of them. I got a check in the mail for $400 one day because, come to find out, some program I was a part of with a credit card I had, they were selling identity protection. They didn't have any identity protection. They were just shaking us down and scamming us, right? He wants to destroy the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to let credit card companies like that continue to rip off the American people. This is what he means. This is what he means by destroy the administrative state or, take it over and restructure it top down like we want it. This is what he's saying. Have a government that can't do basic government functions anymore. This is his ideology. By the way, again, I want to reiterate, some people are silly enough to call him a populist. As if he's any different than all the other Republicans out there. No, he's exactly the same. More on that in a minute, by the way. We're going to go through specific policies to prove it. Although this policy is enough to show he's not in favor of government regulation and the government looking out for the people. He just said, take it over, destroy it, change it. This is Project 2025 stuff. Okay, also to the idea, he's not one of the warmongers. Really? Listen to this.
A lot of people recognize that we need to do something with Iran, but not these weak little bombing runs. If you're going to punch the Iranians, you punch them hard, and that's what he did when he took out Soleimani. By the way, that action, people said that it would lead to broader war. It actually brought peace. It actually checked the Iranians and slowed them down a little bit. But let me just say something about this Iran issue, because maybe the most important diplomatic breakthrough of the Trump administration was the Abraham Accords. If you want to check Iran, the way to do it is to, one, withdraw their oil money, which of course Joe Biden's been bad about, but you've also got to enable the Israelis and the Sunni Arab states to work together and actually provide a counterbalance to Iran. Joe Biden has done nothing. You have the infrastructure there, sitting there, to weaken Iran, to strengthen our ally Israel. Joe Biden's done nothing with it. Donald Trump will reinvigorate it.
So as you can see, he's also a massive Israel cuck. And he's saying, don't do these little, bombing campaigns here or there. Here, I'll play one more time at the beginning. He's like, stand up to Iran, actually attack.
People recognize that we need to do something with Iran, but not these weak little bombing runs. If you're going to punch the Iranians, you punch them hard, and that's what he did when he took out Soleimani.
So in other words, that illegal extrajudicial assassination attempt that's illegal under U.S. law and international law, it's good that he did that. By the way, that led to retaliatory strikes. So the idea that this worked and was great, it de-escalated. No, it didn't. It massively escalated, and we have dead U.S. soldiers as a direct result of it. He's like, don't do little tit-for-tat bombing runs. If you're going to punch them hard. Actually bomb them. Then he brings up the Abraham Accord and says, that was a wonderful success. That was one of the things that led to October 7th. The whole point of the Abraham Accords was a middle finger to Palestinians and Hamas and to say, you don't matter anymore. We're going to work around you. So Hamas said, oh, really? You are? Watch this. And did October 7th. Between that and moving the embassy, that helped lead to October 7th. He diagnoses it exactly wrong and says, no, that was a good thing. That was a peaceful thing. And he's basically saying, oh, help our ally Israel even more. The idea that this guy will want to cut off money, cut off weapons to Israel, preposterous. The idea that he's anti-war, absolutely absurd. This is as hawkish can be on this issue. He sounds like John Bolton. He sounds like the neocon's neocon. Let's get real. Great point here from Nathan J. Robinson. Again, this is the guy some people will call a populist. He tweeted, quote, universal child care is a massive subsidy to the lifestyle preferences of the affluent over the preferences of the middle and working class. Excuse you? So he's trying to say universal childcare is like some elitist policy. Are you kidding me? The elite can get their own childcare, and they do out of pocket. But regular working people don't have the kind of money to pay on the private market for somebody who helps with this sort of stuff. And so they would need a government program and some help and some assistance in order to have somebody to watch over their kids while they're working their 2 or 3 jobs. So this is, again, you saw them do this with student loan debt reduction too, right? Trying to frame it as like, this is an elitist policy. This is a giveaway to the wealthy. That is 100% bullshit. We actually went through the statistics and the numbers. I remember when the articles came out and showed, no, this disproportionately, overwhelmingly helps working class people. So they invert it all. They invert everything. So they argue for elitist policies, but they're dishonest in the sense that they pretend like their elitist policies are actually looking out for the little guy, and actual populist policies are not populist at all. So it's just, he's disgusting. When J.D. Vance was running for Senate, he got money from former CIA Director Mike Pompeo, massive neocon warmonger, diehard pro-Israel Sheldon Adelson's wife Miriam Adelson, again, neocon stuff, and Mark Kavami, who sits on the board of trustees for the Wexner Center for the Arts. That's Leslie Wexner, who gave Jeffrey Epstein his New York mansion. Huh. Interesting. Interesting, isn't it? There's a great point here from Mac, a.k.a. Good Politic Guy, responding to the people who call J.D. Vance a populist. He's against Medicare for all. He's against universal child care. He's against minimum wage increases. He's against the PRO Act. That's the pro-union bill. His top donor occupation is CEO. So he's getting more money from the wealthy than he is from working people. He's backed by venture capitalists. He says JD is a populist in the same way Trump is, a rhetorical populist backed by and bent over by elites. That's exactly right. By the way, some people were saying, oh yeah, he's pro-union. Guess what his AFL-CIO scorecard is for his voting record throughout his career? You ready for this? 0%. 0%. Okay, I think that says a lot. So there you have it. Look, he's a Project 2025 guy. And more importantly, he's a guy who made clear to Trump, look, now I'll do whatever you want. He apparently indicated in the past or implied in the past that, like, if I was in Mike Pence's shoes, I would have went through with what Trump wanted me to go through with. In other words, he would have tried to complete the coup and steal the election. That's what he's saying. So why did Trump pick him? Well, he was so harsh on Trump in the past, and I thought, well, maybe his advisors kept that from him and Trump didn't know. But a lot of people are making a good point now, and they're saying, no, I think he picked him because he was so harsh on him in the past. And then now he's fully broken in. Now he's like a whipped dog who never will cross his master ever again. And Trump views that as the kind of obedience, the kind of loyalty that he demands. That, hey, if I can make this guy who used to hate me fall in line and now worship at my feet and do whatever I say, well, then I'm all set. So I think that's what it comes down to. That plus apparently Trump's sons were really trying to twist Trump's arm to go with this guy, go with this guy, go with this guy. But again, you go through his record and it is incredibly, incredibly ugly. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.